Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
If you're wondering about what you can do if you find yourself in an FCPA compliance action, check out the FCPA Survival Guide. It's my latest book. It's sponsored by Ethico, and in it, I take up and write the top 10 things you can do to reduce your overall fine and penalty if you find yourself in an FCPA enforcement action. So check out the FCPA Survival Guide. The Daily Compliance News for January 30, 2025, the Malicious Compliance Edition. We begin with that story from The Atlantic, as the Trump administration is now complaining that agencies are implementing the mandates of the Trump administration. Of course, these mandates are inane and causing great pain, harm, and damage to the economy, but the Trump administration blames the agencies for implementing them. So if you don't implement them, you'll be fired, but if you implement them, you may well be fired. In a little bit more sane news, Congressman Joe Wilson, a U.S. House representative, has asked that FEPA and FCPA, FEPA, Foreign Extortion Prevention Act, and FCPA enforcement be ramped up to help U.S. companies fight foreign corruption through enforcement actions. This article appears in Newsweek, and it's nice to see a congressman finally making the connection between U.S. businesses and corruption by companies from foreign countries. Next up from the ABC News, Serbia's prime minister has resigned as anti-corruption protests have grown. He resigned following weeks of massive protests over the deadly collapse of a concrete canopy in November, where corruption allowed substandard work to be done. If you ever wonder about the invidiousness of corruption, well, substandard work is certainly one of the consequences. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal, a technology section reports that OpenAI is probing whether DeepSeek used its model to train new chatbots. Now, the Chinese are well known for purloining Western and other U.S. and other Western countries' IP, but now they may have somehow infiltrated and used ChatGPT to build out their DeepSeek model. This would certainly be consistent with Chinese business practices that we've seen literally over the past 20 years, and what this means for U.S.-China relations, the trade between the country, the competition between the country, and most importantly, trade sanctions remains to be seen. At the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.